Change happens a lot to us. Sometimes we intentionally make the change. Other times people take actions and then we feel like we need to change because of that. And then sometimes nature strikes, or the universe, or God, or however you look at that. And things happen that you have absolutely zero control over. And we then have to consider based on that, what do we do next? So we're going to talk today about making changes and what happens when nature strikes and more. All on episode 837 of today's Antidote.
Stay tuned for today's Antidote, brought to you by the Renegade Success Network. Today's Antidote features a healthy dose of thought-provoking insights and information for business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and nonprofit professionals. Each day since March of 2020, this program has offered that one thing to help you continue on your own unique pathway to success. And now, Renegades, we bring you Bob Graham and Tom Brush.
Hey, Tom, we got to go really quick because I got to pee. Nature's calling, so we got to get this episode done really fast.
Oh, man.
Oh, wait, it's when nature strikes, not when nature's calling.
Correct.
Strike. Okay. All right.
Yes. So now you can be okay. All right, everyone.
I'm okay.
I know that, Bob, that we both have a time crunch, and so we are going to jump right into this. Bob, do you want to give a disclaimer first?
Yes, this is being taped because Tom and I have a conflict. Therefore, you can leave comments, but we will not be able to put them into the show. You can put them there. I promise we will read them. We will comment back to you as soon as we get a chance later today. Don't feel like you're missing out on anything. Just comment as you normally would. It just won't show up on the show. Ta-da.
Excellent. Great job. All right. Now, welcome everyone to today's Antidote, our daily broadcast and podcast. Each week, we have a conversation around a topic. This week's topic is making changes, as I mentioned, and we're going to talk about when nature strikes. If you're worried about when you make the changes or thoughts around that, or when someone else does, go back and listen to Monday and Tuesday's episode. And as we go through that conversation, as Bob mentioned, put any comments you have in the chat. And we know that it'll add value to whoever happens to be watching it. At the conclusion of the conversation, Bob and I will each offer our one thing. That thing that we hope will help you figure out how to take the next step forward when you might be caught in chaos and uncertain of what to do next. So please, hopefully that will add value for you. And if you have an antidote yourself, please feel free to add it as well. Before we have the conversation, though, each day we do our celebrations. Bob, what are you celebrating today?
I'm celebrating the fact that you and I have the relationship that allows me to make fun of something you write and it doesn't bother you. You laugh along. That really does help.
Help you or me?
Yes.
Okay, fair. My celebration. So if you remember, yesterday I celebrated the fact that I had a business where I could work from being at my parents' home.
Yes.
Well, today I have a business that allows me to fly to Boston with my wife while she participates in the women's NCAA lacrosse quarterfinals. And
as an official, she's not playing.
Correct, as an official, and be gone tonight and tomorrow, and be able to do my business wherever I'm at. So it's a double celebration yesterday and today.
You just said do your business. We've been talking about nature calling and nature strikes and do your business. We're working a theme here today, Tom.
That you put that in my head subconsciously, and that's why it came out the way it did. We better dive into that conversation, though, before nature strikes again.
That's right. That's right. So, well, that's a great celebration. I'm sure she'll enjoy having you there to watch.
Yes. Oh. All right. Do you want to kick us off?
I do. So we're talking about, as I see it, making changes all week. And this is when an external force, not a person, might cause change, right? So the best example I can think of, Tom, is, now you may not have heard about this, and if you haven't, I can give you a thumbnail sketch, but there was this thing that came up a couple of years ago called COVID and the pandemic. And that was a force outside of all of our control. So in the course of a couple of days, we were all shut down. We were working from home. People were using Zoom and Microsoft Teams. And suddenly everything was different. And you look at some of the restaurants that had to figure out how to do delivery, something they'd never done before, or drive-through, safe drive-through. And so that's what we're talking about here, when nature strikes. And I think the interesting thing to me is this happens to us all the time. You could be in your office It's a nice warm day, it's air conditioned, and suddenly the air conditioning goes out. And you can stay there and work the rest of the day in swelter, or you can seek refuge in a Starbucks or some other restaurant, or you can go home and work. So these things are not uncommon. Or your car breaks down on the way to a meeting. These are things that are outside of our control, but have an effect on what we do. And I think the thing that I find is helpful is to not let them control me. So often those external forces, like I remember when COVID first came and people were like, oh, this is going to shut down. Restaurants are going to survive. And yes, some restaurants didn't survive, but some restaurants did flourish. And other businesses, oh, they'll never survive, yet they flourish. Or they've changed dramatically because our habits have changed dramatically. And if you said to everyone at the start of COVID, hey, for the next 2.5 years, you're going to be largely working from home, I think people would have said, I can't do it. There's no way. Yet we did it and we survived it. And I think that's the lesson I take from COVID is that was a very extreme example, but we all figured it out. And so as we look through these natural things that happen, things outside our control, the big thing is to realize that they're going to happen and that we'll figure out our way. And it shouldn't completely derail us.
I like that. And, the other thing I was thinking about, I was having a conversation with a client yesterday about an event that they had done. And some things happened, that they couldn't necessarily have been prepared for. And yet they could have possibly considered it. And I think one of the things is, and I use this phrase, maybe this is a quotable, I don't know, maybe it doesn't make any sense at all, is that so often I think we plan for perfect when we might be better off planning for imperfect.
Ooh.
Right. So we put the plan, so for this,
I got to find my bell. That's a ding, ding, ding.
I like that when I said it yesterday. I was like, here's the thing is that we put together, what do we think is going to be the perfect day for an event, let's say, or for a marketing plan or whatever. And
that might be your book title.
Interesting.
I'm sorry. I blurted it out. It popped into my head. I didn't mean to derail you, but it just came about.
I kind of like, because I think it's the thought that, again, I believe nothing is ever going to be perfect. And yet that's what we make assumptions that it's going to be, right? I'm going to go in and have the perfect sales call. I'm going to go in and have the perfect presentation. The event is going to go perfect. That's what I want. And I think that what happens is so often that's when things happen that we can't expect. Nature strikes. And if you're planning an outdoor wedding and it rains and you haven't considered, what do I do if it rains? You might want to think about that. And then you think about, okay, well, my solution to that might be a tent. Okay, well, what if it's really windy and we have a tent? And what does that all bring up? And so I think that, sometimes if we started considering all the things that we can think of that could happen, and I don't know, and I think there's a balance between trying to figure out everything and then trying to figure out, here are some of the things that might likely happen. If you're outside, what is our plan if it rains or if it snows or if there's bad weather or whatever happens? And we can at least start to make alternative plans that at least if we have tents up and ready, we can always take them down if it's a beautiful sunny day and we don't need to worry about it. And I think that when I was talking through that with this client, they thought that was a fascinating idea of, trying to be prepared. And even when you do that, you're never always going to be prepared. It's never going to be perfect. And so you can then always go back and say, okay, what did I learn and what could I do different next time? And so I think as I think about, making changes in when nature happens, it's, much of nature is not predictable. Almost all of it is not predictable. And yet some of it is possible and maybe even likely based on whatever it is that we are doing. And so how can I prepare myself for that? Rather than, we think about the sales call, right? I'm going to make a sales call and I know I'm going to close the sale, which means I know I've got my contract ready. I can shoot it over to them electronically. They can sign it, send it right back. I got my onboarding squared away. Everything is all ready to go. And well, what happens when that doesn't work? or the power goes out and now you're on a phone call or you can't meet. And how do I think about how might I adjust to what happens? You're planning to meet at a Starbucks, again, plug for a sponsorship, and the Starbucks ends up closing that day because of whatever reason. And now you've got to figure out what's my next thought and how do I accomplish this? Because if the Starbucks is in the middle of nowhere and you got nowhere else to meet that has no electricity to take care of, to leverage all the technology you put together, how could you still execute what you wanted to execute in a way that might give you the opportunity to get the results you're looking for?
And I think there's some simple things that we can plan for small business owners, which would be having a backup of your data. I'm surprised how many times someone says, oh, I lost everything. My computer crashed. I lost everything. Or the Word document that they were doing and they didn't save it along the way. And then their computer ran out of power and it was gone forever. Or
yes,
they lost their cell phone and they didn't back up their contacts somewhere. I mean, there are a lot of these really simple things that when I talk to people, they're like, well, I didn't have the time to do that. And I think finding that time and thinking about those things is really helpful. Like having a charger in your vehicle so you can charge your phone. I talked to someone, they're like, oh, I've never had a charger in my car. I'm like, really? Wow. Do you not drive anywhere? He's like, no, I drive all the time. I've never had my battery run out. And I'm like, nor have I, because I always charge it when I'm in the car. And so there are those simple things that we can sort of anticipate. Like I had a meeting this morning and I wasn't sure how long it was going to go. And I had my car was getting worked on. So I took work to do. And it turned out that the meeting ran longer and the work took longer. And I had 2 hours of downtime. I could have sat there, twiddled my thumbs, or I could be productive. I brought work I could do there, so I was being productive. So I think it's proactively looking at situations. And I think my one thing would be that there are things beyond our control, but a lot of things beyond our control could be controlled if we thought about them. The simple things. You can't prevent an earthquake. You can't prevent, a hurricane coming through, but you can make sure that you have a charger for your phone. You can make sure that your credit card hasn't exceeded its limit. And if someone says, if you find out from your credit card company that it was hacked, you can respond to that day rather than waiting a week or two when someone comes and says, hey, your automatic payment's no longer working.
Yeah.
What's your one thing?
I think my one thing is I'm just going to go back to my phrase is that, stop planning for perfection and start preparing for imperfect.
That is such a great book title. Don't steal it, anyone. Tom's going to write that book. I feel it.
Can I trademark it right now? TM?
Yeah, you can. It won't do any good unless you can prove it. But yeah, go for it.
Okay, fair enough. Well, isn't this recording proof of it?
I guess. Yeah. Yeah. We'll have to check to see if anyone's using that already.
Correct. All right. Well, if you have one thing, please feel free to share it. And if you want to join us inside of our Ring of Renegades Facebook group, where you can share those thoughts and ideas and gain from the value that others are sharing. We look forward to seeing you inside of that group. If not, we'll see you tomorrow morning, 7 a.m.-ish Eastern time, for our next episode of Today's Antidote.
Hey, embrace the renegading you. Sorry, I got distracted there for a second. Embrace the renegading you. It's so worth it. It'll help you as you plan out the things that might happen.
I would agree. All right, everyone, go out and enjoy your day. We'll see you soon. Thanks for listening to Today's Antidote, powered by the Renegade Success Network. The Renegade Success Network helps you confidently create your own unique pathway to success. To learn more about the Renegade Success Network and how you can take your next step, follow us on Twitter, connect on LinkedIn, or join the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. For full details on how you can join our community, go to renegadesuccessnetwork.com. Embrace the renegade in you.